We had a big one today, folks. That's why I did all the little gimmicky stuff at the beginning. I was going to sing for you while I poorly played the banjo, but I sing even worse than I play the banjo. But I was going to make a joke about holding space for the lyrics of I Saw the Light. And you know, that I saw a few posts about it. And I am in analog horror media, internet horror media, so... But I can't make that joke because I didn't sing, so there were no lyrics. Anyway, hello, my name is GlitchWitch.JPG. I make videos about internet horror, analog horror, digital horror, creepypasta, ARGs, internet urban legends, and sometimes survival horror video games, which usually just means Silent Hill. But today, we are returning to a GlitchWitch.JPG certified classic, certified favorite, and that is the McKinney Family Home videos. McKinney Family Home videos is an analog horror series that has 2 seasons that started earlier this year and has just concluded last night as of me recording this. And this series is near and dear to my heart. I loved this series so much that it made me start recording with my pulpit. It inspired me to pull out the pulpit. I used to just sit on my pew and record, but now we stand on the pulpit. It has changed the fabric of my very YouTubing. But this was a series that was recommended to me by my lovely YouTube member, So-Called Punk, and it's also special to me because I have directly been involved, not with the making of it, but I did create the box art for McKinney Family Home Videos Season 1, and that, you know, I'm not just gassing this series up because I, you know, did the box art for the VHS release of Season 1. I was honored to be able to do, you know, design for a series that I already loved. So this one will always be very special to me, and it's very rare that we have a actual, you know, concrete conclusion. I almost said concrete collusion, Jesus Christ. Concrete conclusion to an analog horror series. Often they kind of meander on, and sometimes then people just stop uploading and you don't know if it's the finale or not. We know for a fact that this is the finale of this series. It is done so. So that's kind of bittersweet, but also kind of refreshing to have, like, hey, it's done. It certainly makes it easier for people like me who analyze and review analog and internet horror content. So, what is the McKinney Family Home videos about? I highly recommend, before you watch this video, that you go watch the McKinney Family Home videos. It's only a handful of videos, probably take you like 2 to 3 hours tops. I think 3 hours is generous. I know that the first season Nick, the director, has edited it into a movie length, and the second season is shorter. So I definitely think you can go knock that out. And if you want more insight into it, I made a video on Season 1 that was, you know, me declaring my deep love for it in the first place. So that, you know, you need that info probably before you come here. I'm going to be dropping lore and weird shit and plot points and characters that will make no sense. In fact, everything I just did prior to me talking to you normally, it made no sense to you. I just looked like a freak if you didn't know what McKinney Family Home Videos is. But the basic plot is a family man named Dwayne moves into a new house in rural Virginia with his family, his wife and his daughters. He moves closer to his mother, Diana, who runs a church called the Church of the Holy Mother. And as Dwayne gets closer to his mother, he starts picking off his family one by one due to the influence of this church and its deity, the lovely Lilith. Yes, that Lilith. So that is the base, and this season really just builds upon stuff that already happened in the first season, but certainly asks more questions. So please familiarize yourself with this series. I think this is one of the greatest examples of, like, go watch this on your own and then come back to me, because you will have questions. Divas, I still have questions. And that's all I've done in the past, what time is it? 25 hours. Ignoring the times that I slept and ate. But since it dropped at about 6 o'clock last night, my whole life has been piecing together the McKinney Family Home videos. So, I am here to guide you and what things could mean, what interpretations could be, what exactly happened, because this is an analog horror found footage series that is very intentionally vague with its plot points. There is a plot. They are giving it to you. It is there. You just have to really put on your thinking cap. That's what this is today. It's my thinking cap. In order to, be chill with it and understand what's going on. So please go watch it. I've put the links to the channel below in the YouTube description, and then come back and we're going to unpack this. Go away. Shoo. Lilith will know if you lie and you stay on this video without having watched the McKinney Family Home videos. This series is too long for me to sit and hold your hand through, where we, watch the whole thing together. I'm not going to be doing that, and I also really don't like doing that if I don't have to. And this is a series I don't think I have to. I want McKinney to get the views. They deserve the views. So go, shoo. You're back. You're scared and you're confused, probably. And that's where I come in. So what we're going to do here is I am going to go video by video, talk about what happens in the video, and then give you direct analysis of what I think is happening in that video per upload order. Like, there may be things that end up making more sense later, but I'm going off of, like, if I just watch video 1, 2, 3, I'll tell you what I think about video 3, even if video 5 gives insight into it, for example. So let's just do a video by video breakdown. Then I'm going to give you a chronological timeline of the entire series. And then I'm going to give you 2 predominant plot theories that I have. Inside me, there are 2 wolves. And they both are just being beaten to death by Diana McKinney. Video 1 is the Church of the Holy Mother recruitment tape. And this is a tape that Miss Diana McKinney, the matriarch of the McKinney family, Dwayne's mother, grandma, the diva herself, she has archived quite a handful of these videos. The first season, everything was uploaded by Dwayne. Then Dwayne dipped, because he's gone. So Diana took over the channel and she started uploading. And Diana is very polite. You comment on her videos and Diana is like, thanks, baby, for watching. And I'm like, yes, I love a church grandma. So this video is essentially like a welcome tape, a commercial, welcoming people to join the Church of the Holy Mother and explaining the theology of it. And their theology is essentially that they are Christians. They believe in the Christian God, and I believe they believe in Jesus, at least based on what I'm seeing, in the imagery and the songs they sing and stuff like that. But they believe that Adam's first wife, Lilith, was spared by God because she, defied Adam because, you know, she felt that they should be equals. They believe that she was saved by God and given a special power to communicate between heaven and hell, and that includes being able to speak to your lost loved ones. And of course, the video glitches out and we see little messages either from Lilith or Diana, not quite sure who. But this is our first implicit, like, hey, this deity is Lilith. This is the mother. She is the Holy Mother. There's lots of mothering going on in this series. Second video is Welcome Home 1991. So this is very insightful to building, kind of filling some gaps from season 1. So the very first video of the McKinney Family Home videos is called Move In 1991, and it's filmed by our protagonist, Dwayne. Well, I don't know if he's a protagonist. Our main character. He does be a family annihilator. So in this video, he's kind of giving a tour of the house. He's recording like a video diary for his mother, Diana, just showing her around the house. And at one point, he takes a phone call. And while he takes that phone call, we see a photo of the previous owners that he had shown us earlier. So now, in Welcome Home 1991, we are in the attic of the McKinney house, and there is a man in the attic, covered in blood, leading over this sigil, while we hear Dwayne on the phone, and it is the exact same phone call from the very first video. So this is happening simultaneously to Move In 91. And I am nearly positive that this man is the previous owner of the house that we saw in that wedding photo from downstairs. And there's some backwards audio that happens when he is doing the thing with the sigil, and it says, "I am not the first, you will not be the last. She's already inside you." So that to me is affirming that this man did exactly what Dwayne did before Dwayne got in that house, and he annihilated his family, and then Dwayne moved in. And at this point, you can assume that Diana probably had a hand in this. You know, Lilith marked the house. They needed Dwayne in that specific house, so they, you know, got this previous owner, who his name's Mr. Walden, I'll just say it. They got him into the house, and, you know, he killed his family, which is very sad. I love this video. The very ending shot that lingers on the open attic is chilling. There is something very scary to this series when it's specifically the home-based videos, because I've owned my home for about a year, and you know, my house is scary. Anytime you become a homeowner, it's scary. We've had many hurricanes. My ceiling was pissing a few weeks ago because they haven't fixed my roof from the hurricane. So then now there's a hole in my ceiling. Luckily, we're good. It's all fine. Everything's going to be okay, but just, you give me a creepy attic. It stresses me out. I've seen the attic a lot. Our attic is weird. It looks like the back rooms kind of, because the people that owned the house before we did lived here for like a long time, like 50 years. And they built an extension, so the original roof and like outside of the house is still up in the attic. It's very strange. I digress. Let's move on to the next video. My point is, this series personally gets me because I'm Southern and I live in an old house. Two key components of the McKinney Family Home videos. It's Virginia. I consider that South in this respect. I know people go back and forth on that. The way that this is shot is Southern Gothic to me. Video 3 is the Walden family. That's how I knew his name was Mr. Walden. I keep wanting to say Mr. Walton, both for Walton Files and The Waltons, the Christian TV show. I loved that show when I was younger. Anyway, I digress. So, we meet the Waldens. And we see they're the couple from the photo, and they're just hanging out in the house. They're talking, chit-chatting with their friends. They're talking about a friend that gave birth recently. And we learn that Mrs. Walden is currently pregnant as well. And she starts telling a story about how her husband was waking up in the middle of the night and kept repeating some strange phrase that had to do with people breaking in or something with a lock. And, we can assume this is Lilith messing with his head the same way that Lilith messed with Dwayne's head. And we see this weird painting on the wall that I will just go ahead and tell you it is a painting of Lilith. So we know that they are, I guess, practicing, worshipers at the Church of the Holy Mother. I can assume that at least. And then it cuts to a car driving at night with windshield wipers going and there's no rain. I don't know what, that makes me uncomfortable. I don't like that. That's something that bothers me. I think it's the squeaking. The squeaking, freaks me out. The car's driving, and then we can hear digging, so I'm assuming this is Mr. Walden bearing a child, because at the very end we see a man, looks like he's holding a baby, so I think that's what was going on. And he meets Lilith, the diva in question, the diva herself, the reason for the season, might I say. And she reassures him he's doing the right thing, and if he keeps listening to her, he'll be reunited with his family, and it'll all be chill and good. Next, we have video 4, which is Path to Divination. So this one is very cool because it's almost entirely audio-based storytelling, which is a big deviation for this series. This series is definitely more visual and text heavy. I just want to say the acting in this, it's infrequent, but it's always good. It's always good. The people playing the Waldens, it's incredibly natural. That footage is so believable. If you just showed me the clip of them talking, I would assume that was actually an old home video. It's that just effortless, which is, you need that for found footage. You need it. It really helps the believability insanely. Diana's vocal performance, incredible. Love it. Very convincing. I can see why people follow her. I can see why she's the leader of a church. She's very calming and welcoming, but also commanding. She scares me a little bit, right?
We found nothing but sorrow here. Until we met someone. Someone who showed us a new path, a direct path, not only to salvation, but to a better understanding of the world here on this planet, on Earth, as well as the heavens above. Hellfire below. Now, some of you here know who I'm talking about. Some of you have been blessed by her. Some of you have felt her hand upon you. Some of you, like me, have even seen her yourself. I'm talking about Lilith. Lilith, who has given us everything. And for this blessing, we are called to give her everything we can. Sacrifice who you are, who you were, who you thought you were born to be, and give that up to Lilith.
So in this, it is a sermon given by Diana McKinney, playing over the radio, and I believe Mr. Walden is listening to this sermon. We see a figure kind of pacing back and forth, and the whole video just focuses on this one painting. And Diana starts off referring to a Bible passage, Romans 12:1, and interprets this passage, the inclusion of a living sacrifice, very literally. Biblically, this is usually interpreted meaning that you are sacrificing your life in that you are living for God, not for yourself. So you're not sacrificing yourself being alive, you are just sacrificing your purpose to God. Diana and Church of the Holy Mother, I believe, interpret this very literally, that you must sacrifice your physical body and the physical bodies of your family. I think this is a really interesting just comment on how different denominations can interpret one text. Every different Christian denomination has a different interpretation of the Bible. And that's where it can get scary, because at its core, Christianity is a very peaceful, kind religion. Jesus his teachings were very kind and, you know, really about living a life to help others and be there for your fellow man and live a life with purpose. But certain denominations make it more about themselves and not about Jesus, and then you start getting very hateful interpretations, you know, of a message that's supposed to be very inclusive and welcoming. So I think that's really smart. I think it's, you know, definitely kind of meta leaving the story, but as someone who really likes religious horror, it doesn't always comment on, you know, the like socio-political impact of religion, and it doesn't have to, don't get me wrong, but especially in analog horror, I don't often see that. It's just kind of like Catholic scary, which, look at me and look at my house, I love Catholic scary, but to see this kind of southern Bible interpretation, socio-political commentary, I love to see it, and it's another reason why this series is like very high up for me, because, you know, I am a sucker for religious horror, but it's also been done to death, especially in internet horror spaces, and this is such a fresh take on it, simply because it's not Catholic coded. Let's be real, that's the easy thing to go to for, you know, Jesus scary, because the Catholic imagery is already there. But Southern Gothic, like Baptist backwoods shit, it's very creepy. Look at Ethel Cain's entire catalog. She gets it. If you're listening, Ethel, don't know why you'd be watching GlitchWitch.JPG. Score the film cut of the McKinney Family Home Videos diva Match Made in Heaven. Anyway, I digress. How many times will I say that this video? Diana starts telling her own life story, and she reveals that she gave birth to Dwayne when she was only 19. So she was very young. She was with her husband, Richard, Dwayne's father. And, you know, her and Richard really struggled to make ends meet. She was a stay-at-home mom, and Richard worked multiple jobs just to, you know, so that they could kind of scrape by. So she ended up wanting to turn to religion to kind of find something to give her purpose in life because they were struggling so much. So they tried out a bunch of different churches, but they didn't like them. She found that they were greedy, they were selfish, they were focused on money, and she was very uncomfortable with this. But then she eventually found someone who we know that it's Lilith that made sense to her. It was a religion she could believe in. So then Richard passes away, and I do wonder if he was sacrificed or if he just died of natural causes. I'm not sure. There's nothing to lead me to believe that, other than that Church of the Holy Mother in general tends to make you sacrifice family members, but I kind of think he just died naturally. So she kind of struggles through this because she lost her husband, and then Dwayne's a teenager at this time, and he ends up leaving the faith. But at the end of this sermon, she rejoices because Dwayne is coming home. He is returning home to her and to Lilith, and she is just overjoyed. And this is set in 1990, so it is right before, or 1991. I think it's right before he moves home. It's right before Dwayne is going to move into the house and the events of season 1 unfold. We see just a gory, nasty scene on this painting. You could see some blood splatters, but it kind of pans out and we see it's just covered in blood. So I assume while this sermon was going on the radio, Mr. Walden was finishing up his sacrifices so that he could, I guess, go live up in the attic and let Dwayne and the McKinneys move in. And I do want to note that, you know, this sermon was called Path to Divination. And divination isn't something that the Bible necessarily loves. It's the practice of communicating with supernatural forces to gain knowledge or insight. And there were early Christians called Gnostics that believed that they had a closer connection with God because God could communicate directly to them or, you know, specific figures within early Christianity and the Gnostic subsets of early Christianity. A specific figure that I know just from my biblical studies is there was a Gnostic group that believed Mary Magdalene was closer to God and closer to Jesus, and that Jesus revealed certain information to her that he did not reveal to the other disciples. And of course, this is considered very sacrilegious to the normal Bible. So that's like a non-canon book of the Bible, the Gospel of Mary Magdalene. But it's online, you can read it. And that's considered like a Gnostic text. So I think that like Diana and Church of the Holy Mother feels very Gnostic. It's not your typical, you know, Southern evangelical religion. She feels like a vessel that can speak with Lilith almost. So I just think it's very interesting as someone who's interested in like biblical history and, you know, theology history, to see like a modern interpretation of a Gnostic religion, a Gnostic Christian sect. It's fascinating. And, you know, similar to putting Mary Magdalene on that, you know, pedestal, that level of worship, Lilith is an even more controversial figure than Mary Magdalene. So it's very interesting and I really enjoy it. This series gets religion in a way that other series don't. The next video is Jezebel 1997, and this is the first video in season 2 that doesn't have the like property of the Church of the Holy Mother, you know, tagline beforehand. And this one is exciting because I believe it is filmed by Miss Jessica, Dwayne's wife. She is walking through the woods and she stumbles upon this small compound and we hear singing. And I kind of think this property is probably Diana's because Jessica walks into this house and it's very disheveled and just torn about the same way that the house in Grandma's house in the first season was. And I do want to say something that this series has done well in the past. Daytime horror. When you can make daytime effectively scary, you are an incredible horror filmmaker. And this series does that. It does day and night very well. But I enjoy it. I think that's a thing we're seeing in internet horror a lot more, is bringing daylight, bringing bright colors. Things like Joaquin Bong's Polished Mercury, and all of Dr. Nowhere's work, I think, are great examples of that. It says that someone was there, but that they've left. And I don't know who, if this is referring to Dwayne or Diana or Lilith, I'm not sure, or the kids maybe. Because at this point, I'm, you know, thinking some of the kids are dead, not all of the kids, because this is clearly before the season 1 finale, Dwayne's hunting trip, where he finishes everyone up, because it's snowing in that video, and it's not snowing in this one, unless that was like January 1997, and this is like summer 1997, I don't know. And Lilith appears at the end and says, "I grant you eternal life, and in exchange I shall have your skin." And then we hear this nasty crunching sound. My cat's food bowl's going off. It is the Walter from Breaking Bad. Because his name is Walter. Not after Walter White, after Walter Sullivan from Silent Hill. Anyway, sorry about that. I hear this nasty crunching sound that I do believe we heard in Jessica Homecoming 1998. That video is my white whale. I don't know what to make out of Jessica Homecoming 1998 from season 1. It's a thorn in my side. It messes with what I know is happening with the series. So I'm going to keep talking about that later. But I think that sound was in that as well. And we hear this horrible fleshy crunching sound and the screaming. So I wonder if Dwayne was killing Jessica here, or if Lilith is taking control of Jessica here. I'm not quite sure. Jessica is still the character where I'm like, what are you in all of this? I know you're important. I know you're more important than I think. And I don't see anyone else talking about her in the comments, and it's driving me crazy. Again, this video had me guessing the most of all of them in season 2. Without a doubt, the title of the video, Jezebel, is referring to Jessica. Because the description says, you took him from me. We know Diana is the one maintaining this channel at this point and uploading the videos, so I think it's her saying, you took my baby boy from me. Diana would love toxic boy moms on TikTok. I'm just saying it. She has a TikTok. The McKinney Family Home videos have a TikTok that went up when Diana was in control of the account. So I know she's watching those videos. You know the ones I'm talking about. That's scarier than any eldritch evil god. I would rather hang out with Lilith than those people. Lord. Jezebel, if you're not familiar, it's kind of at this point a catch-all term for just the evil, wicked woman, but it comes from the Old Testament figure Jezebel, who was queen of the kingdom of Israel, but she was a pagan devotee of Baal, and was very opposed to Judaism and just monotheism in general. So of course, the biblical prophets were like, ew, she's evil. And she was pretty nasty, I will say. She was not nice. But you know, she is viewed as the Jezebel in this situation because she's the evil, non-religious partner that took Dwayne away from his mommy, both his mommies, his biological mommy and his spiritual mommy. So then we have video 6, which is called 10-9-92. And this is another one that I feel like is very insightful to a lot of the events of season 1. And this is another very audio-based storytelling rather than visual, which I think is cool. It switches things up a little bit. And here we have Dwayne kind of frantically talking about how scared he is because he has known for a long time that his mother's crazy. He doesn't believe anything she believes. None of it's true. But since they've moved to this house and moved closer to her, it's starting to make sense to him. And that really scares him and makes him uncomfortable. But Jessica clearly doesn't get what the problem is. And he starts talking about how the kids, specifically Christy, are behaving strangely. They look right through him when he talks to them. He doesn't think that it's something wrong with the kids. He thinks that it's more than that. And mid this, you know, kind of frantic rant, he hears something in the other room and he runs over to my other cat's food bowl. That's where he runs. Dwayne runs to feed my cat, Eileen, who has only been alive since 2023, even though this is video set in 1992. Okay. Back to it. Dwayne frantically runs to the source of this sound, and we find that Christy, his daughter, is watching the Path to Divination sermon, the tape. So we can assume it's the exact same tape we saw, because it is a physical VHS tape. He is like, where the hell did you get this? And she says, Grandma gave it to me. And then he's like, we haven't seen Grandma in 3 months. Where did you get this? And we can assume she found it in the house. We see later that, you know, she did probably find it in the house because he finds a tape in the house. So this is Eileen, by the way. Everyone say hello, Eileen. What do you have to say for yourself? Anything? Yeah. Very insightful. Anyway, he takes the tape, takes it to like the shed, the garage, something, and he smashes it with a hammer, and everything starts to shake and quake and be weird. And then he finds a motherfucking tooth in that tape. A tooth in the VHS tape. That's what this is all about, baby. That's analog horror. The house down boots. I was living when I watched this for the first time. There's also like blood, so I assume that either Diana or probably Mr. Walden, because we know he's a bleeding out freak, put this inside this tape. And before, I saw people in the comments being like, how would the tape play if There was a tooth in it. Suspend your belief. It's fiction. Deal with it. That's scary and weird, and I love it. I have a feeling that the second that he smashes that tape, it's like the point of no return. That's what makes him kind of fully lose it, fully give himself over to Lilith, and start killing his family. Because this is just a year before Christy baptism, which I believe Christy is killed in that, but also I don't know anymore. I'll talk about that more later. But we see text that says, they know what you are, a monster. And this probably is kind of referring to the kids kind of staring through him. And in previous videos, Christy refers to him literally just as Dwayne, which in the past I thought that maybe she was like a stepkid, but I don't think that now. I think she's his biological daughter, but because she's, you know, sensing something is off and she senses the influence of Lilith, there's like a disconnect. So then we have, Eileen, I'm not ready. There's too much. We have the finale, illegible, which I love that, because that means that we can't comprehend that word, whatever word it's supposed to be, or the tape is smeared, whatever. I love it. So this is the one that premiered last night, and this is the one I've devoted the past 25 hours of my life to, and I still don't really know what I think, but I love it. I know that I love it. I was gooped and gagged. My husband likes to watch analog horror series with me because he'll be like, there's a blob on screen and you start screaming. And yes, I do. So, this starts off with more kind of like vlog footage from Dwayne around the same time as Move In 91, where he's clearly sending this video message to his mom. And he shows the dead end that we see Jess posed in front of in Jess Homecoming 98. And this to me kind of affirms that that footage in that video is not from 1998. I think it's older. I think it's from when they moved in. That can make me rest a little easier with that damn plot point, because that always threw me off, because I think Jessica gets killed before 1998. But more on that later. And he visits the shed where the kids are eventually killed. So this is another thing I got wrong in the first video, or that I made. I thought that he was killing the kids on Diana's property, but I believe it's on his own property. The shed that keeps showing up, I think, is what we see in Dwayne's hunting trip. And he repeats over and over that Jessica wants nothing to do with the shed. And he also notes that that it looks like someone left in a hurry, which we know Mr. Walden has not left, but certainly the family left in a hurry, not by their choice. Then we cut to a field at night where we see a blonde woman in a red robe, and then we get a various amount of text pop-ups in the lovely VCR OS mono. The harvest is upon us. We have abandoned our tongues. We see more people in red in various locations, including the dead end that we saw Jessica at previously. They say, we've given up our names, relinquish our humanity to you and to her. Then we see a large white cross, and the text, you are my loyal servant, flashes up. And then we get a rapid fire, insane montage. And I'm going to do my best to give you all the hidden goodies. I will say, I spent the time frame by framing this entire sequence. And I do think it's just all existing text from the series, layered in different areas. But I'm going to give it to you anyway, because I did it, so you're going to take it. And you can fast forward if you want, because I'm just going to say a lot of words. And I'm going to be looking over here because I have to read my notes. But this is what I found in... What are we doing, Eileen? No computer. This is what I found in that rapid fire crazy sequence. So it begins with the recruitment tape, and then footage of Jessica at the dead end is layered over that. Jessica's footage lingers specifically with the text, "What have you got to lose?" from the recruitment tape. Then it says, "God will never forgive you." Then the Lilith face painting from the Walden's house is overlaid with the shed lit in red. It says, "They will follow me." The Walden family title card is laid over footage from Jessica Homecoming 1998. And "Can You Forgive Yourself" is layered over. My favorite shot in the whole series, by the way. It's a gorgeous shot from the Walden family video where this light is pouring in this window, and it's breathtaking. It is everything I love about living down here in one image. And I know it's probably like that everywhere in the country, but that to me just evokes, oh, I love it. I can't even explain it with words. Anyway, let me keep going. Then it says, so after it says, "Can you forgive me?" it says, "What will you do? Hollow apologies, vile blasphemer." Cut to Mrs. Walden, and "It's all your fault. They're rotting. Was it worth it?" Then the Lilith painting. "Do you hear it? Do you see it?" Then we see the red house from Jessica Homecoming overlaid with the road from the Walden family video. Then we see the forest and "Yes, you do," with Lilith overlaid, quote, "Hear my voice. If you do what you're told, you will be reunited." And then, end quote. And then the closet from the Walden video that says, "Love endures all things." Then we see the TV from Walden and the quote, "Goodbye, Dwayne." Then we see footage from Dwayne's hunting trip, quote, "Your body and mind." And then we see footage from Family Vacation 1990 with Lilith overlaid, quote, "I will devour you, because if you do and never return, now leave this place, your debt is paid." Then we see Lilith, quote, "My will is done." Then I believe Family Vacation, quote, "You have always belonged to me, you and your family." Lilith, as she's shown in Dwayne's hunting trip, quote, "When I am your God." And then this is where it gets confusing because the text layers over itself. And I think most of it is stuff from the existing footage, but I think some of it isn't. So the first one, and this is again still Lilith as the imagery. The first quote is, "Why do you reject me?" layered over, "I can help you." The next is, "Your mother is ashamed," with "I can save either you or us." I couldn't quite read it, layered over. Then it says, "You have disappointed me, my blessed follower." Then we see women dancing over footage of the shed. Then we see Diana's house, quote, "The only way out." Then we see the shed again, quote, "Is to burn so that I may live," end quote. And then there's more footage of women, but the shed still, quote, "All must die, and you paid for treason." And then this is a layered quote, "Your mother brought you home, and but not enough to blank." I don't know. I couldn't read it. My little eyes were so tired. I was doing this way too late last night. Quote, "Make them suffer. You were punished by me." Then we see the barracks from the vacation video. Quote, "But you left your faith. You gave your life to me. You lied." Then the night sky from Dwayne's hunting trip. Quote, "You prayed to me. You followed me. Hell is open. Do you remember now? You are not you anymore. Heaven is weeping." Then the mannequins we see in Family Vacation. Quote, "Lilith is coming. Be not afraid." End quote. And then there's like the weird figure with the eyes that is also from Family Vacation, I believe. Quote, "The devil saw everything. The Holy Mother approached." End quote. Cut to Jessica on the train. Cut to a Jessica close-up. Quote, "Please come home." Cut to the painting from the divination sermon. Quote, "It is nearly time." End quote. We see the room from the end of Jezebel overlaid. We see Lilith overlaid. Quote, "I shall have your skin, and in exchange I grant you eternal life." The Lilith overlay disappears, and then it says, quote, "But I'm still here." There's an overlay of Diana and Richard At least I think it's Diana and Richard. It's the couple that we see in Jezebel, the portrait. There's the overlay of the bunk beds from Jezebel, quote, "They are gone now." Overlay of candle from Jezebel, quote, "Someone was here." Overlay of Diana's house, quote, "This is holy ground." Then we see the forest from Jezebel, quote, "Bless this home and give your family peace. They're waiting for you." And an overlay of Mr. Walden and the sigil. And this kind of stays now where it's just Mr. Walden and the sigil. Quote, "Mommy will make it better." And then there's an overlay of the grandma drawing from blank, the "This Is Me" drawing from blank, the mommy drawing from blank. I'm your mommy, I know. Overlay of the Dwayne drawing, overlay of the friends drawing, and then we see the attic from Welcome Home, and we see still the overlay of the friends drawing and the overlay of the "This Is Where I'm From" drawing. Quote, "I never left. My family is gone, but she promised." So that, I think, is Mr. Walden's perspective. Quote, "Show me. If I do what I'm told. Do you have friends? Why not? It's your turn. Tell me about your family. I'm so sorry." So a lot of that is from blank. Overlay of the church from Bible study. Quote, "You are not welcome here." That's literally the original footage. Overlay of the missing poster. Overlay of the graveyard from Bible study. "Heaven is not yours." The footage of the gate. Quote, "We trusted you." Missing persons flyer. Quote, "The door will open. I'm coming home soon." Then we see the grandma's house in the McKinney basement. Quote, "I was never enough. It's not enough. This is my blood." And then "Vengeance is yours." Quote, "This is my body. It never stops. You saw the devil. You made me an angel. What did you see? Are you prepared? You're about to be born. It's too late. They know what you are. Monster." And then from here, I think it repeats. I couldn't quite tell because, again, it was about 11:45 at night last night. But I do think, oh no, excuse me, there's more. "Who is there? They know what you are. Monster. Who is there? Where are we going? But only you know why. I won't come home again. He's hurting me. The devil will answer. If you pick up, please not here. It wasn't here. I begged you." And from here, I think it repeats. I'm not quite sure. It seemed to be repeating things that I had already seen in this sequence. So I just moved on because I think, I'm sure there's insightful things in here. I think it's laying down information we kind of have already parsed. But I think it's a really cool sequence when it's at full speed and everything, and kind of a nice, I don't know, it's part of the send-off of the series, right? And it shows a lot of earlier entries to the series, which I think is cool. But as the video continues, we see Lilith crucified up on this giant cross, which is so thrilling to look at. It's so cool. And it looks like there's something coming out of the dress, but I can't quite make out what it is. Lilith then says, I assume it's Lilith at least, with the text on screen, "Diana, my child, the harvest has begun." And it cuts back to Dwayne in the shed, just for a second. But then we see the blonde Lilith, which I assume is the same person in the red cloak from earlier, in front of the cross. And she has this long blonde hair and these large black wings. So she is an angelic being, which they have mentioned angels and God and all of that throughout, so I'm not surprised by that. And at this point, she's covered in more blood than we have seen the entire time. Like, every time we've seen Lilith up to this point, she's got like a little bit of blood in her, lady bits area, but she is like covered now, and it's all over her hands and everything too. And she bends down at the cross, but then it cuts back to Dwayne in the shed. He finds some blood and a tape, which is likely the divination tape that Christy ends up finding. Back to Lilith at night. She picks up a baby at the foot of the cross. It says, "What will you name this child?" There's a pause. "She will love it." And then someone in this sequence runs away, and we see the Church of the Holy Mother congregants up close, and they all wear those paintings over their face. So clearly, it's something they hang up on the wall when they are not, actively worshiping, but when a ritual or whatever is going on, they affix those paintings to their face so that their face may mimic the Holy Mother, which I think is very cool. It was an interesting touch, and I kind of like it better than a mask because it almost removes their personality an extra layer. Like, they don't even have a normal face shape. They are a square. There's a wooden wall with a hole in it. It says, "Your child will know me," and an eye appears in the hole, which is one of the freakiest things in this entire video, and I love it. And it says, "This was never your home" after that, and then it cuts to footage of Dwayne filming the same day that he was filming in the very first video, but from a different angle, like someone else is filming him and watching him. At first I thought this eye was Jessica because there's that fixation on the eye of the missing woman poster, and Jessica is of the age of all the missing woman people in the Bible study. And then also when Christy draws her in blank, she has the very circular white eyes with the black dots, but I'm also wondering if it's Mr. Walden, like, saying this was never your home, because it was never his home either. So, like, is Dwayne just gonna, essentially hang around the way that Mr. Walden did? I'm not sure, but I do visually, I like that sequence a lot. And then it cuts to the cross by itself while an absolute analog horror banger plays, The Amazing Grace, we all know and love. I will say, as I was listening to it, I was very surprised not to hear, "This is Lieutenant Dr. Davis. Will workshop PD, please phone in, please help, please." I was surprised because I associate that very much with Mandela Catalog 3, but it worked very well in this instance. I love an old hymn. I was playing I Saw the Light poorly on the banjo at the beginning of this. It's not shocking to anyone. There's a close-up on Lilith and a final message miracle. But wait, psych, this is an analog horror project. It's not the final message. If you squint, screenshot, and then up the saturation levels and all that shit in Photoshop, there's more. And I did that for you. For you. Say thank you, GlitchWitch. The final message in the white part of the tape kind of running out is, "Christy, we are all waiting on you. Follow my voice. Listen." Now, I figured it out. Did I figure out what it means? No. As far as this final Christy message goes, I think that my main theory is that this ritual we're seeing here is actually Christy's birth or shortly after her birth, and that baby is Christy, essentially proving that she was preordained to be in the Church of the Holy Mother, to be a daughter of Lilith, all that jazz. And I think that there's a lot in the series that leads you to believe Christy is special We know her name. I don't know the name of the other child. She has a whole video, Christy Baptism 1993, and she is the one that is watching the divination tape, right? And that he specifically mentions is like looking through him. This would mean that she wasn't killed by Dwayne and Christy's baptism, or that it would mean that Lilith was able to bring her back to the dead, from the dead, which I guess could be her like promise of reuniting. But the vengeance is yours part at the end of the repeated section, the fast section, leads me to believe the vengeance in question may be Christie's, that she can be resurrected like as the Lilith figure, or like in the faith, like defying her death. I don't know. That doesn't even make sense to me as I say it out loud. But I think that baby is probably Christy. For a moment I was like, is that Christy's baby? But I don't think it's Christy's baby. Like, we'd be going so far in the future. So I have a quick thing that I want to try to articulate before I get into my actual analysis. Jessica's homecoming 1998. I thought Jessica survived and that all that very mean dialogue was directed at Dwayne, but I almost think it's directed at Jessica. And I noticed that Lilith in Dwayne's hunting trip has Jessica's hair. So I don't know if that means that Lilith can like take these women and make them like her vessels, or just assume their likeness or their spirit or something, and she is like fulfilled by that. And that could be why all those missing women from Bible study went missing, because Lilith like slurped them up and started like presenting like them. I just wanted to point out that I missed that. So that is how the series ends. But I have more to say, I promise. You're probably mad because this video is going to be like 2 hours long. But first, I'm going to go through the chronological order of events as I know them. But I don't know the exact date of the final video, so forgive me there. I'm going to try to figure out where that goes at the very end. In 1989, the promotional video for Church of the Holy Mother is released. That is our earliest date, or so I think at least. I may be wrong there. In 1990, Dwayne is on a family vacation with his family, and he's contacted by Lilith, trying to welcome him back, but also threatening him to begin believing in her again. And he used this deity is very against his family. She's very hostile to it. In 1990 as well, the Walden family, we meet them. She's pregnant, and I believe he starts killing his family. In 1991, Diana records the radio sermon talking about welcoming Dwayne back to the Church of the Holy Mother. In 1991, Dwayne and his family move into a new home and join a church his mother recommends, cementing him back to the religion of his youth. I don't know if they literally join or he is just, in proximity and that has the effect. I think it's probably more that, because I don't think Jessica would join that church. At the exact same time, the previous owner of the house performs a ritual in the attic, binding Dwayne to his eventual fate. In 1992, Dwayne expresses deep fear of Diana and her religion and the influence it has on the kids, especially Christy. In 1993, Christy, one of the McKinney daughters, is brought to a house in the woods where Dwayne kills her to appease the deity and she meets God. I also think there is a chance that she is not killed here, but rather taken over by Lilith in some fashion. I'm not quite sure. In 1994, Dwayne seeks, I guess, his other child at school to sacrifice, but I don't think he is able to actually do anything there. That is the school video. I don't quite know how that fits in at this point. In 1995, we visit Grandma's house, where I thought the sacrifices and the bodies were being taken, but I don't think so. My entire take of this, last time I said, I think Grandma is the text in this section, and she is remorseful of losing her grandkids, and that her faith alone isn't enough to satiate the deity. But I don't believe that anymore. I think she is fully locked and loaded into this religion. And this may be more about just like the childhood trauma that Dwayne experienced. I'm not sure. In 1996, I believe Jessica disappears out of fear for her life, and and Lilith is upset with Dwayne. I don't know how I feel about where Jessica went. I don't know. 1997, Jessica meets with Lilith at Diana's house. At least I believe it's Diana's house. So again, I don't think she went missing in 96. 1997, after that, Dwayne kills his final child and God releases control over his mind, satisfied with his payment. 1998, I said Dwayne and Jessica reconnect and he's forced to confront what he's done. I don't know. I still don't know what I think about Jessica Homecoming 1998. I think he killed her, or that Lilith is in control of her or something. I don't think she's just alive and well. I don't know. But that is, and I think I'm like 90% sure. That's not super confident, but it's confident enough. I'm like 90% sure that illegible, the ritual happening in that is Christy's birth. So that's technically probably the earliest thing, because that's sometime in the pre-1989. So that's that. I'm going to hit you with my 2 dueling theories, and then I'll shut up, I promise. I have 2 main theories after watching this season and comparing it with season 1. And my first theory, I'm going to call Lilith and women. I believe there is a chance that Lilith is using women who worship her, or the women associated with people who worship her, as some sort of vessel so that she can have her powers and physically appear on Earth at times. And that's why the hair is different sometimes. Like I said earlier, I completely missed that in the season 1 finale, she literally has Jessica's hair. So that to me is proof that she can either use the body of like a deceased woman if Dwayne has killed Jessica, or just she's powerful enough to visually change her likeness. And I think at that point it was done to upset Dwayne, kind of kick him while he's down. So I wonder if the POV of the person in Jessica Homecoming is either Lilith controlling Jessica's body, or if it is like the spirit of Jessica trapped in the house. And maybe Mr. Walden is that too. Maybe Mr. Walden took his own life and he's just like trapped in the house spiritually. And that could be what Lilith means by like, you'll be reunited with your family members and that you're like stuck in limbo. I don't know. Again, I'm kind of going off the rails there. Or it could mean that Jessica is coming home to heaven because Lilith is done with her. She could be done using her body, and then she finally can be at peace and rest. So those are all interpretations of what homecoming could mean. And I think that Christy is a valid vessel for Lilith. I'm not quite sure if she was kind of like prepared for that in Christy baptism and she didn't die, because it talks about, I was made pure and I met God. So I wonder if she is kind of like sucked up into Lilith. Again, I don't know how it works. In the video blank, the drawing titled Me, and again, I assume Christy is the one doing these drawings, it feels similar to the paintings of Lilith. It's the white and black face, so I wonder if at this point, Christy is already one in the same with Lilith. Like there's a part of Lilith in Christy and vice versa. And that could also be why she's acting so strange around Dwayne, because, very similar to like in Hereditary, how Paimon is like trying to pick a different family member. Like he wants the daughter, but then the daughter dies, so then he wants the son. That whole shebang. I see a lot of Hereditary parallels with this series simply because it's family and religion and scary mommy, right? So in this scenario, I think Lilith probably bargained with Diana when Diana originally met her to use her as a vessel, or to promise her family as vessels for Lilith to be able to actually like do her bidding on Earth. In exchange, Diana will receive the spiritual enlightenment and the purpose that she so desperately craves. And I truly believe it all starts with Diana in every sense. my second theory as well, which I'll get into in a second, obviously. But in divination, she says, I met someone. It's not that she went to a sermon at Church of the Holy Mother. I believe without a shadow of a doubt that Diana started Church of the Holy Mother. So it is all through her. And I assume that, she binds the whole McKinney family to Lilith when she makes this agreement with Lilith. And I guess in order to practice the faith, men end up sacrificing their families. They're willed to do so by Lilith. And they're probably not told that up front. You know what I mean? Unless it's just some guy who's like, sweet, I have an excuse finally to get rid of my family. But I do think that Lilith needs a female vessel or connection to maintain her, existence on Earth. Because Lilith, as a figure in mythology, is so tied into feminism and, the power of womanhood. And, even her design in this series that she is bleeding from essentially where her womb is very powerful and, shows the intense sacrifice of that women make. And I'm going to get into that a lot more in a second. And I think that perhaps the full potential of Lilith may not have been realized until there was a female heir to Diana, which would be Christy. She would be the first female heir because Dwayne is an only child, right? He's her only son. So I think that maybe that divine feminine allows like a, stronger connection for Lilith, and she's able to, control these men, have them start killing their families for her making that sacrifice. I have a feeling that Diana is maybe preparing Christy to fulfill her place at the head of the Church of the Holy Mother. I'm not sure, because again, I don't know if Christy is dead or not. I'm not, like, she may have survived Christy baptism. That may have been her kind of move into the church and into a position of power, whether that's literally just normal power like Diana has, or if she is like part Lilith or something. Now, my second theory also hinges a lot on Diana being the one true source of all of this. And if I'm going to be honest with you, this is the less fun theory, but the more that I think about it, the more that this is my take on this series, and the more that it just makes more sense to me. And absolutely, like, you do not have to agree with me. It is less fun, it's less fantastical, but my second theory is that there's no Lilith. I think that Diana was a deeply lonely woman who was scared and young and raising a child essentially by herself because her husband was so preoccupied with feeding them and keeping them alive. And she had a child so young, there's a chance that her family shunned her for getting pregnant at such a young age, because she, alludes to the fact that they were not churchgoers at that time. They sinned. She's home alone all day with this baby, and she probably feels like she has no purpose. She seems like a woman who is very strong and wants to have some sort of power or control, and she probably felt like she couldn't have that at that point. And, she's got no one but Richard and her son, who can't really do anything for her, right? Besides Richard keeping them alive, but he can't provide, like, enrichment, essentially, to her, and neither can a baby. So she, I think, probably wanted to find guidance and a lifestyle that would maybe make her family respect her again. So she seeks out religion. And, she said in divination that kind of the materialistic selfishness turned her off from traditional Christianity. But you can assume at some point, as she's reading the Bible, looking through these churches, she discovers Lilith, the first wife of Adam. Of course, a normal, Baptist church in Virginia is not going to come out and start talking about Lilith, but if she's doing this research and she's sitting at home alone all day with this child, who's to say she doesn't start doing her own research? And as a young stay-at-home mother who felt very lonely and very lost, I can imagine that she felt very drawn to this powerful woman who was also shunned. And her narrative around Lilith throughout the series, and the religious doctrine of the Church of the Holy Mother, is very tied to sacrifice. And I think she views having this child at such a young age as a sacrifice. I think she sacrificed what her life could have been. And that's not me saying that anyone who has a child young is sacrificing their potential in their life. This is just how I view Diana McKinney. Some women are very fulfilled by being young mothers, and that's awesome. I don't think she was, though. And, in general, women do sacrifice a lot of their own autonomy when they choose to become wives and mothers, depending on who they marry and, the role they take on in their children's lives. And in a weird, fucked up way that only makes sense to someone who is deeply troubled and deeply bought into, a fanatical belief system, I could see Diana believing that men sacrificing their families to her Holy Mother Lilith as a way to free those women from, the position that they're put in. They can live on with Lilith and not have to worry about, being a wife and being a mother and being present, because she so badly, I think, didn't want that. So she's taking it away from everyone else that, dares associate with her. And, like any good cult leader, she's incredibly charismatic and convincing. So I think that, she would be able to get a very select few people to buy into this. And I think that she is the one physically dressing up as Lilith, and appearing to, her followers that are kind of damaged enough and scared enough to buy into it at this point. And if you'll notice, it's not a big church. I mean, the sermon at the end, or the ritual at the end, there's like 4 people. I don't think it's a very large congregation. I think it is very small, and it is mostly just Diana. So, Dwayne is especially vulnerable to her because he grew up with her spouting this nonsense. She sounded probably crazy. He was probably terrified growing up. He, for a long time probably really believed her, and then he started meeting people like Jessica and was like, you are insane. I'm getting away from you. I'm not dealing with this. But, he moves back home, and his childhood trauma is probably brought to the forefront, and he could have some sort of, complex PTSD or other mental illness that makes him kind of get into a fugue state and just listen to whatever she tells him to do. And the thing that I share in both theories is this idea that Diana wants Christy to take on the mantle. I think that in this situation, she views her, because she is the, female McKinney descendant of Diana, the first one. She wants her to take over once Diana is gone. And also, I think securing her this status of head of this church could prevent her from sacrificing her autonomy to becoming a wife or a mother, right? If she devotes her whole life to Lilith, there's no room for anything else. This read is going back to what I was talking about earlier with the interpretation of, how you interpret the Bible differently. This interpretation of this series is very political. It's very, I probably sound like the friend that's too woke right now. It points out how manipulative and cruel that, religious organizations can be, but also points out how beaten down and undervalued women are in our society. And tackling both of those things at the same time in a way that to me is not too overt and too smacking in the face is crazy. And again, I may just be fully interpreting this by myself because I am the friend that's too woke, but I love that read of this series. I think it makes Diana even scarier, and it makes the whole thing even sadder. And it is such a small community that's affected by this. I find it believable. And I think that's what's so scary to me about like small church communities, especially like down here, I pass so many churches on my commute from my house to my job. I have no clue what's going on in there. And of course, they're perfectly fine and normal, I'm sure, for the most part. But they are probably little churches with the same, 50 people. And they're just slowly dying off. And then it'll just be an abandoned church on the side of the road. And that's just that's not something I experienced a lot when I lived in a more populated place in Michigan. I love this series. I'm floored by it. It's some of the best visuals, strongest found footage, I think, in the genre, personally, at least for my taste. I do come from the House of Skin and Meringue, so I can get why I really like this, and maybe some people don't. But the passion and the care put into this series is super evident. It freaks me out. It's chilling. There is good jump scares, but it doesn't rely on too much jump scares. And, as an avid and outspoken fan of religious horror, I do think this is excellence. Like, this is some of the best religious horror you can get. It's not what you expect, and it's such a fresh take on a really, even though I love it, overdone subgenre. I just really, really love it. And again, I know it's because it is evoking a, area near and dear to my heart, so I am biased in that sense. But I love this series. I am so honored that I was able to work with Nick on the poster for it that ended up being the retro release VHS. Packaging art, truly just such a cool experience. I literally reached out to him on Reddit after he was asking for a designer to work on a poster for it, and truly just such a nice guy and an incredible artist. The entire team is incredible. The actors clearly are incredible. Some of the best and most subtle acting in the genre to me. And even though I know Nick and I have worked on the series, I want you to know everything I am saying is truly from my heart, truly what I believe. If you go back and watch the first McKinney video, that was before, I was involved whatsoever, and you'll hear a lot of similar praising. It's just a series that is made for me. It's Southern, it's religious, it's feminist. You can't really get more GlitchWitch.JPG than that. So that's why it is just so effective to me. So let me know what you think. Let me know your interpretations of the finale, how you liked the second season versus the first season, and any of your favorite religious internet horror projects. I've covered quite a few at this point. I've done, obviously, the Mandela Catalog. Polished Mercury is incredible as well. This is my, Baptist evangelical vibes favorite analog horror, and then Polished Mercury is my favorite Catholic coded analog horror. I love Polished Mercury. Please watch that if you love religious horror. What else? Sisters of Salvation I've covered. There has to be more that I'm not thinking of. I'm sure there are. But recommend any to me, and any other analog horror projects that may interest you. This, again, I can't say it enough. This was a viewer recommendation, and it literally changed me in so many ways. So please tell me. I need another McKinney Family Home videos. I'm desperate. But thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Thank you to Nick and the team for making an incredible series. And thank you to my YouTube members. We have the Creepypasta OCs up on screen. But then in Survival Horror Emo, we have E-Rob and Odini. And then in Analog Horror Scary Face, we have Kira Coffer. I also want to shout out, I wasn't able to shout her out in the last video because the music file had gone to my spam and I didn't realize she'd sent it to me. I want to shout out Screaming Butterfly for composing the GlitchWitch.JPG intro. I have a theme song. I can't believe it. She is incredibly talented. Please, I have her information in the description. Follow her. She is an incredible musician. Very Akira Yamaoka vibes. Love her dearly. She's a sweetheart too. And I'm so excited. I feel so legit. An intro. So the song you heard at the beginning and the song you'll hear at the end That is the GlitchWitch.JPG intro by Screaming Butterfly. So thank you so much, Screaming Butterfly. It was a dream working with you. She knocked it out so quickly. I was like shocked and in awe. It's so good. And it's just, I feel legit. I feel very legit. So yes, thank you to everyone. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe, share. Make sure you subscribe to McKinney Family Home videos and you subscribe to Screaming Butterfly. Thank you so much for watching. I know this was a damn movie probably by the time I'm done editing it, but it's just a series I'm so passionate about and I'm going to miss it. So have a lovely day. Wait. I don't want to drop this. Goodbye. This is heavy.